Hey everybody, Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity, and I'm bringing somebody back to chat with us that I just couldn't let go. If you recall, a couple months back, I talked with Stephanie Elaine and Paris Barkley and Jeanne Elfant Festa about their documentary on Billy Preston entitled "That's the Way God Planned It." And in that conversation, I discovered that Jeanne has worked on a whole bunch of documentaries besides the Billy Preston one, and you can see them all right here behind me. And once I found out what she was involved with, somehow or other, I missed it in my research. I knew I had to speak with her, so we went back and forth through emails, and the result is this interview you're about to watch. And I was very excited to find out in this chat that she's got a documentary coming out later this year on none other than Fleetwood Mac. How cool is that? So I am so glad we had this opportunity to talk, and I am kind of thinking we're going to be talking more in the future, especially when that Fleetwood Mac documentary comes out, because we all love Fleetwood Mac, don't we? While you're watching this, if you don't mind, hit like if you're enjoying the conversation you're watching. And if you're not already a Boomerocity subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. It won't cost you a dime, but it'll sure help us out a lot. So without any further ado, here's my first of what I certainly hope are many more interviews to come in the future with Jeanne Elfant Festa. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care. I was so stoked after we last talked with this Billy Preston documentary. How I know it wasn't brand new then, but it was going to be hitting the theaters, on a tour type of thing. What's been the feedback on this from this latest push of the documentary? Have you heard anything?
Well, yes, it's been, this is a great rollout plan. We had it sold out on our theatrical debut, and we had it at a Q&A, forum, at Film Forum, excuse me. We did a
Mm-hmm.
Q&A at Film Forum in New York City. That could have, could go New York City. It could go either way, right? And
Right.
it was supposed to be there a week, and it's there for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow.
Extended 6 weeks.
Very
And
good.
we had three articles in the New York Times, all three very, very, very positive. One of them, it gave it critic pick. Not like
Nice.
this it's the critic pick. It's like it's amazing. So it's not just pick of the week, it's their pick. So
Right.
it was just beautiful. It's just been, and the reviews have been amazing. We've the film has been booked in more than 70 markets. I'm hoping that it goes into the Midwest. Nothing's been confirmed in Chicago yet, but we're hoping it does, because many Midwesterners don't couldn't see it. But yeah, we feel very lucky. There's New York Times articles in Billboard, Deadline, CNN. Our director was featured on Morning Joe. I was with our director on WNYC Public Radio. Um, my goodness, it's a bit. Stephanie Elaine, my producing partner on
Mm-hmm.
this, was with Paris on a Billboard. I think it was for their media, podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And the beat we the filmmakers we engaged Apple Corps, who promoted the film on their Beatles and George and Olivia Harrison social media platforms,
Mm-hmm.
and it increased the audience 7+ million combined followers in a very, very short time. So we just feel we're in a very unique moment of
Yeah.
word of mouth publicity, because that's what it's been, very, very word of mouth. And we were blessed because Grammy Award winner Elvis Costello came to our screening in New York and asked his like nearly, almost 900,000 social media followers to knock on doors and holler from the rooftops until you can see it. And that was so beautiful of him to say for us.
Well,
So,
I watched it four
yeah.
times. I mean, I took
Oh,
advantage of
wow.
that link you guys gave me, and I mean,
Thank
my
you.
fiance and I both watched it, and I've watched it alone 3 times. And I mean, every time I see something I missed the first time, I think that's what you're going to see. Plus, I mean, and that's the reason why I wanted to talk with you, because when I saw what else that you've worked on, I mean, there's just that sweet spot of that the whole genre there. I mean, you see it all behind me. Of course, you know what it is, but I just think there's this intense um, interest in what I will call our music. I mean, you've got
Yeah.
Epic out now. You know, Baz Luhrmann is just he just seems to have that Midas touch on anything.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I wait. We
Uh,
had nothing to do with that, but yes, that's
yeah,
amazing. I heard it was so good too.
it
Baz
is. I've
Luhrmann's.
seen it
I have to
twice.
see
Yeah,
it. Oh, wow. I've got to see
I,
it. That is really
but
cool.
so back to these documentaries. Is it? Am I mean, my sweet spot's obviously the entertainment interest of baby boomers, and it appears. I mean, is it intentional that that's yours too, or did it just happen to work out that
It
way?
it just happened to work out that way. I'm born on the cusp of baby boomer Gen X, right? So I'm end of
Right.
63, December 63. And in fact, my dad always tells a story, not only end of 63, but you were 15 minutes to midnight. So, and they charge us for a whole day on the December 15. Isn't that funny?
That's funny.
He
Yeah.
always used to say that to me. I think it just makes me laugh. But yes, I mean, music filled our house all the time. And of course, remember, I came into this wonderful company that's founded by a true baby boomer. My business partner Nigel Sinclair,
Mhm.
who just had his birthday today. He's born in 1948. I think. I think it's 40.
Woo.
Yeah, I think it's 48. And
Just
so,
inside that from the beginning of it.
right, right. But and I have a sister's born in the 50s, and my brother's born in the, in 1960. And my parents are from New York, Brooklyn, New York, where my dad was really wanted to be a professional musician, and he studied
Mm.
saxophone. He played saxophone. That was his passion. But his parents made him go to med school, and he listened to them, so he did. But he always practiced. He always loved the saxophone, and we had glorious music playing. From Billie Holiday to oh my goodness, now I'm gonna forget everyone's name. Just incredible music that my mom and dad introduced me. They used to love the Apollo Theater and loved Harlem. And they would frequent it often when they were younger, sneaking into the theater via a fire escape. And I remember telling the head of president of the Apollo Theater, when we went to pitch us to be the right filmmakers to create a team to create a film about the Apollo Theater. And I remember telling her that, and one of my partners was like, "God, I don't know if you should have said that." But I did, because it was part of our family lore and part of our family's just wonderful passion about about Harlem and about that theater, because that theater just meant something so much to my parents, and and to a whole bunch of people. I mean, it's until this day, it's that we feel that film is an evergreen film. It's not just a clip reel. It really talks about the people and what it meant to be a pinnacle, of the Chitlin Circuit, and what the Chitlin Circuit was, and all of that. So we're very proud of that film, because it does tour colleges and some high schools, and
Mhm.
we're very proud of it.
Well, I mean,
So
it's like we
that's a
talked about.
long-winded answer. Yeah.
No, not at all. Well, you hear me talk about long-winded. That'd be me. The We talked about this during the Preston chat we had, and I see it, with that movie, with Stax, some of the others, and
Mm.
even with the Beatles talk that we did, the unifying beauty, the unifying uh, talent that music has. I'm picking the
Hmm.
wrong word here, but where
No,
it
you're right.
transcends race. I mean, we
Yep.
see it in the Billy Preston film where he and the Beatles, I mean, the Beatles wanted him to be a Beatle, right? And here he was,
Yeah.
a black guy, right, from America, and but the music unified. We see it. I saw it in the Chuck Berry documentary. Seeing it in the Beatles film that you did,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
rewatching
Eight
that
days a
again,
week.
and yeah, and so how we can have race problems in the country when we have this kind of thing going on. I don't understand, but to me, it puts a big smile on my face when I see the races, you know, blend together, at least with our genres of music. I can't speak to the newer stuff today because I don't go to those shows and I don't track that stuff. But it seems like, at least with what we grew up with, it just seemed to be a unifier. I mean, do you see that the same way?
I think music is a unifier, full stop, no matter what the music is, whether or not you're into rap, whether or not you're into, house music, whether or not you're into techno, pop, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is a unifying. You can see people of all races, handicapped, you
Mm-hmm.
name it, it's there in every capacity. Going to these big events like Coachella, any of these big that it's a big variety of music. So sometimes you get your old rockers that'll, come at the last night but most of the times it's a younger of course a younger generation that's making music, which is a beautiful thing. And it is filled with young and old and like our country is founded on freedoms and freedom
Mm-hmm.
of religion and freedom of you're supposed to be able, we have the First Amendment that is
Mm-hmm.
a very important amendment, and freedom of expression is what the arts is. So yes, I agree with you. Music is a unifying, beautiful, a healing property, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be in a group of people and swaying to the music with
Mm-hmm.
strangers, arm in arm. It really is, even
Well,
at my age.
hey, I'm older than you. Don't go there. So the like I said, you seem to have this sweet spot for the baby boomer niche there, and the
Yeah, I
even with the
suppose, right?
TV shows and all that. Pardon me.
I suppose so, right? I'm looking at my posters, right? The
Yeah.
the, the Bee Gees
Well,
had him in the Broken Heart. Yeah, Pavarotti,
yep.
I suppose. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And
Lucy and
although Willis,
Desi and
Lucy and Desi,
Stacks and all that.
yeah,
And
Stax, right?
so,
Foo Fighters.
what is first of all, I mean, obviously that stuff appeals to somebody like me and my generation. Why do you suppose? Well, first, I think we're going to respond nicely to it, but I guess my first question would be it'd be a two part. What is the response you're getting from the whole body of work, across the board, and especially from any of the other generations besides the boomer generation? And secondly, why do you think that is? Why, and especially from the younger audiences that didn't grow up with this stuff, but they're in tune with it.
I
How
think
would you answer those?
well, we're doing a film right now that is in the edit. It's almost done about Fleetwood Mac. It's the only fully authorized piece about Fleetwood Mac, and that they started in the early '60s, and then famously, I guess during COVID, a guy was walking around with a big boom box and drinking iced tea, and the song Dreams. Did you remember that? And it kind of brought
Mm-hmm.
them back into the consciousness of a younger generation. Although I feel that Fleetwood Mac is one of those unique bands that transcends young and old.
Mm-hmm.
It's their songs are raw with emotion, they're poetry, they're about something, and young and old love it. But one of the things that we get from audiences, or that I hear from younger, we've got 18-year-olds, 19, 20, interns that come in, and periodically, of course, interns they're floating to look at what they want to do in their careers, for in their future. And when they come here and they choose us, because it is something that they are going after, they're going after a specific documentary film company if that's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they say the same thing, which is they love our films because it's process. We're just not just telling you, you know, then they did this and then it was this and then at that time, and then we throw like some images on the wall. We are really talking process, and it's a poem as opposed to prose, meaning that our films are, we really strive for all of our films to have a three-act structure like a regular movie would, and to cover those uncomfortable truths that people live through, and also cover how they created the magic that they created. And when we did the Bee Gees, I remember having to turn down people. Had major celebrities had heard that we were making a doc about the Bee Gees, and they all said, You got to interview me because people don't know how great they were, and they don't know how good they are in their songwriting." And they would list off things, and we interviewed quite a few
Mm-hmm.
many people for that film. And I think when you watch that, you can see these, was Justin Timberlake, and now I'm going to forget everybody who we interviewed, but you could you could see their joy talking about that creative process, or them hearing it for the first time and
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Where did this come from?" It's like there's a blues thing, there's something else under it, and then there's this high falsetto, and what is this? And I love the way our interviewees in that film spoke about hearing it for the first time, hearing that music. And um and I love hearing, the fun thing about the job that I do is interviewing everyone around the artist who helped the artist realize their full potential, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what a producer does. They are a producer in, not, but I suppose I try to do that, but I mean, when I'm referring to producer, I'm referring to a music producer, so somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
creating the album with the artist. They are really a facilitator, obviously they are adept at what they do, and can do things that I can't even understand or explain. But it, in in creating an environment for an artist to to push that envelope, to do things that they didn't think that they can do, or to help them, when with the Bee Gees, one of their drummers had to go home because he lost his mom in the middle of a
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of his of a recording, and they ended up making a drum loop. I mean, something like that. No one knew that story, and they
Right.
then told us about it and recreated it. And back in that time, they couldn't do it electronically, so they had to do this drum loop. And
Mm-hmm.
it turns out that that's a thing. The Fleetwood Mac had done that as well. They created an incredibly long, drum loop and it was all across this whole studio. It was ridiculously large. Um, but because it's a piece of tape. It's that
Yeah.
recording that they're rolling around. So,
Very
and they want,
expensive
and
tape
it's
at that.
exactly, and the way they cut it. And it was so interesting because at those Q&As, whenever we had the two artists, the two producers in the room with us, we always got questions of something effective. And forgive me because I'm going to screw up the question, but would ask a question about what angle did you hold your that knife to cut it at the right angle, and what kind of
Mm-hmm.
tape did you use, and things like that, because
Yep.
people are really into it.
They
It's
are.
an analog, fun, thing. Butch Vig spoke about that in in our Foo Fighters doc that we did.
Hmm.
That's the very first film that I did, and Butch spoke about using the analog when they did that these records with the Foo Fighters, and that was glorious because you're really understanding the whole process and the whole that's what turns their key, that
Yep.
is what makes them have the longevity, and
That's
it sort
awesome.
of has that touch point for all of us in our lives. So well, goodness, I hope I answered that question.
You did. You did. Did you on that? And I want to interview you when the Fleetwood Mac doc gets close to coming out. I'd love to talk and focus just on that. But as a kind of a teaser question, I just recently posted my interview with Rick Vito, who took Lindsey Graham's place for a
Lindsay
few
Buckingham.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Buckingham.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham. Oh
Yeah.
God,
The
I'm going to
politics and
edit
everything.
that out. So,
It's good. You'll edit it out.
Lindsey
Somebody will mark
Buckingham.
it for. Yeah,
I watch too much news.
I know, right?
But
Yeah.
but he was a fun interview, and I just happened to mention. I said Mick would never do this because I'm not big enough. But I said I'd love to talk with the three of you about the blues. He goes, oh, he would totally do that. He goes, he's on honeymoon now, but let's do that. So supposedly we're going to talk about the blues, the three of us. But they were just
That's great.
that fun that they had in just making music. Do you is that a common thread you've seen in the documentaries you've done? Beach Boys, Beatles, Foo Fighters, even Pavarotti, Bee Gees, all that. Did they first of all did they seem to genuinely have fun when you did that research? And secondly, did it ever seem to go away and become a chore for them?
If you're referring to Fleetwood Mac, it would they did love it. I mean, they really did have a good time. There's no question, and of course, there's no question that there wasn't good times. You're putting
Right.
people under a huge pressure cooker. You're
Mm-hmm.
young, and even if you're not young, we have deadlines in our offices. Wherever anyone is
Mm-hmm.
listening from this right now, you're probably listening to it because you want to get away from, the news and and whatever it is that you need to get away
And Lindsey
from.
Graham, right? So
And Lindsey Graham, right, right. You want to listen to Lindsey Buckingham to help you
that's
get
right.
away from
So
Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Buckingham's melodic, gorgeous guitar playing. Yes, amazing,
yeah.
amazing. And also an amazing producer. And things that you learn about the things that Lindsey Buckingham did to really help realize the band's full potential, because they
Mm-hmm.
went from something that was quite, and look, we all love the first incarnation, the first several incarnations of Fleetwood Mac, because
Mm-hmm.
they went through a lot of people, but everybody talks about the Peter Green of it all. And of course, Black Magic
Mm-hmm.
Woman. And you're talking about, beautiful songs that are still indelible in our beings. But there's
Mm-hmm.
also something incredibly unique and incredibly special about, Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks, Christine McVie, John McVie, and Mick Fleetwood. You cannot take anything away from every single one of them. John McVie's bass is it literally gives me goosebumps. I mean, it is amazing, and to isolate it and to hear it and to say that's what he that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing a bass line, which is incredible, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're hearing Lindsay's layered guitars, which means that he had to sit, and it's very Brian Wilson like Lindsay,
Mm-hmm.
because he wanted to make things sound differently, and he wanted things to, feel, just hit you in your solar plexus, and then of course, Christine's beautiful pop love songs that are just infectious, and takes you away to her, oh daddy, that kind of solemn, not a prayer, but just that song, oh daddy, that
Mm-hmm.
she could see that I can't sing, so I'm going to embarrass myself to try to sing
Neither
that
can
song.
I.
But it's amazing. It's a beautiful song. And of course, her, Songbird, which was that she used to end the concerts with. And, Stevie's, I can't even say enough things about Stevie. The poet, the musician, the communicator, the, uh,
Mm-hmm.
the the Earth Mother's sister that is like, there's,
And
meeting her
the
was
mystique she
amazing. And
had.
the
Yeah,
mystique, oh my God, my God. And then, Mick and John are just, they are, they are they're the foundation. You
yep,
can't go anywhere without those two. The band's named after them, and
yep.
they are, holding it together. So it is. It's. I think. I think that that is going to connect with all ages. I think it's going to. I think people are going to have a sense of discovery,
Mhm.
and and I hopefully it brings people back together that have been apart for some time, and hopefully we get new music out of it. I hope. Who knows?
I hope
selfishly
so too.
selfishly I
I
hope we
mean,
do.
yeah, I don't think that's selfish. We know what we like, right?
Yeah, we
But
love it, and we love it, and bless them for
yeah,
it, right? We're so
exactly.
lucky that they are
We,
living and that they gave us that. We're
yep.
so blessed.
Do you find, and there's so many directions I want to go, Jeannie. It's not even fair. I mean, just I become quickly ADD on stuff like this. But um, first of all, I mean, there just seems to be a good a wealth of great documentaries coming out about this genre. I mean, I just recently watched the Paul McCartney one, Man on the Run, and um,
I
I've been
love that.
rewatching the Beatles one on this one, the
Hmm.
Billy Joel multi-part one that they did.
I
I mean,
know. You crying your
could you
eyes out,
imagine
right?
doing what was it, 6 parts or something?
I
Five or
think it was
six. It
four,
was
but yeah, yeah,
several.
it was a lot. Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But it was
who would
it
ever
was a
do
brilliant
that?
film.
Yeah,
Right,
it
right.
was. But there seems to be such a demand for it. And another two-part question: what do you think is driving that demand for documentaries of this genre? And in your opinion, because you've done so many great ones here, what makes a what separates a good documentary from one that truly resonates and stands the test of time? And doesn't
Well,
come across like now we see on social media, you see all this AI generated crap, and it just, it's clickbait.
sad.
Once I see what it is, I
Hmm.
turn it off, and it's going to ruin social media, I think. But what do you think differentiates a good documentary from a truly excellent one that stands the test of time?
Well, first of all, just to be clear, Billy Joel and So It Goes was a two-parter. Each one was 2.5 hours. So
Oh, I
it
thought
each
it was
it
longer than that.
it was
Five
longer
hours,
than that.
though. That's what it
Yeah, I know.
was.
It was
5 hours.
5 hours. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
long time. You could break it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was personal. I think that's why it was so good because
Mm-hmm.
we were taught Billy. We learned things about Billy we never learned. People
Mm-hmm.
were really let you inside, and Billy allowed that to happen. So he allowed us in to really get to know him in a way that we never got to know him before. And I think that's why we loved it so much. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Michael J. Fox's documentary. It's not a music doc. It is only an hour and a half, or an hour, maybe an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. But it feels shorter, which is always a good thing, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Is brilliant, and it's there is something that is inviting, that the director and the editor invited you in, so visually, because it's a visual medium, of course. So you had music, you had the way the storytelling devices that they used. It was absolutely really, really good. That's probably one that I'm holding up. I love films are that engage you right from the get-go, and take you on a journey that you are sitting there going, you look at your watch and you go, oh, how long is the movie? And then all of a sudden it's over. and you're like, oh
Hmm.
shit, that was so good. No, or you're crying, or
Hmm.
you feel like you have to call somebody and tell them about it, or
Yeah.
and I have to say, I'm very proud of Bee Gees and Lucy and Desi and these films that are, of course, the Apollo, yeah, every film that I've worked on, but because they are very personal, because the people who, were wonderfully open and allowed us inside, and allowed us to tell their story that everybody thought that they knew differently. We might have left
Hmm.
some things out. We always get criticized for, well, you left that out and you left this out, but it flowed. It's a story.
Yeah.
It's an art piece. Film, let's remember, is an art medium,
Hmm.
and you again, it's told in a three-act structure visually. You have to experience it and like almost be superimposed into story. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That is the biggest goal. And I'm blessed to be working with wonderful filmmakers here at Whitehorse, and also the partnerships that we have been just delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I find for me, I don't know your craft, so I'm speaking as a fan and as a consumer. But I'll name two films, and even though I enjoyed them, to your point, and to compare them to your work, and I'm not saying this to patronize you, but there were
Mhm.
two very good documentaries I saw that could stand to learn from what you guys do with your documentaries. And that was the Led Zeppelin one, Becoming Led Zeppelin or Being Led
Mhm.
Zeppelin, whatever that
Mhm.
is.
Mhm.
And honestly, Man on the Run. On the Zeppelin one, I mean, they played whole songs in between segments about talking, about development. And I was like, no, I didn't come to the theater to listen to a song. I've got the albums. I don't need this. I want to hear
Mhm.
things. I want to know, yeah, have the music as part of it, obviously. But I wanted to hear more backstories and more, to your point, stuff we didn't know about before. And, to me, it just felt like bait to stretch out a story. I mean, clearly they're going to probably do a sequel to it because they've left so much unsaid.
Mhm.
That's that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Zeppelin fan, but
Mhm.
that was the one criticism I had of it. On Man on the Run, it seemed like they were trying very hard to do a lot of graphic gimmickry on there. And maybe that's where we're at today on some things. I don't notice that with your guys' films that you do. It's like how I'm doing interviews. I don't do all the jump shots and the jitter and all that junk. I'm too old to try to do that stuff. I'm here to help people tell their story,
Tell a
give them the
story. Tell a
opportunity
story.
to do it, and hopefully ask the right questions. But you know, even if I could do all that fancy stuff, I wouldn't because I don't see where it really adds to it. I mean, the documentary was great. There was a lot I got out of that thing, but they could have done without the 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 um the gimmickry. And I think you guys do such an amazing job of not using cheap tricks to keep people's attention. I mean, clearly, you guys, the way you did the Preston movie, what I would see in the Beatles one, the Apollo, all of that, you guys do such a good job of letting the people hold our attention instead of gimmicks. And you don't use
We
cheap
try.
shots to, create, if it was social media, to create clickbait or to, a cheap shot and keeping our attention. It's real stuff. And I mean, I again, I have to genuinely and sincerely say, I think a lot of people could learn from you guys on how you work your craft because it keeps an old guy like me, you know, hooked and listen and wanting to watch it more than once, which I think should be that golden gobstopper for you guys. you know?
I have to agree. We always go back to films like and this is completely off topic, but we do go back to films like Bridge over River Kwai for reasons.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
they take you away, or The Great Escape, they take you away.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of, effects. There may be explosions, of course, we're talking about World War II and escaping from a prison, but but it's really about characters and about getting
Hmm.
out of a tough space and having, the brotherhood or sisterhood of, banding together, band of brothers. So I understand what you're saying. A lot of times, filmmakers use archive. That if they don't have a lot of archive, they may have to go to animated animation
Or
to some
recreations
extent,
or
or
something.
recreations, which
Yeah.
we don't really not really thrilled about doing recreations. I think using the animation and maybe using the still images and figuring out a way to not animate the still images, but maybe create some sort of a flow, moving piece with animation and archive. That could sometimes help. But it is, I know what you mean. It's not for everyone. I love those filmmakers, and they're all incredibly great human beings and nice people. And I also, I'm sure there's films that they felt like, well, this one felt flat on me, or what have you. And they're all pushing their envelope. They're all just pushing their art form
Hmm.
to excite another person. So I don't know. I know I would never make a good critic. I would just say, for me, I couldn't make it. I wouldn't be a good critic because I understand, one, how difficult it is to even just get to the product, to just do it, have everybody agree.
Get people to
It's just
talk with you.
difficult.
I can
Exactly.
relate to
Exactly.
that. So.
Exactly. I mean, exactly. You can relate to it. And,
Hmm.
what we try to do with our films is we try never to make you feel like, oh, well, you have a lot of, people will, to go to somebody who's just talking at you. The person has to be a person to be able to lead you. Come over here. This is what we're going to talk about.
Right. Right.
They have to be that where you're going, wait, why did they interview this person? So that you're engaged with that person. It's not just
Right.
because they're a celebrity. They could be just a regular person that we met, and we had Mr. Machado speak and Lucy and Desi about the difference between being a refugee, what that felt to him as opposed to being an immigrant, you know,
Hmm.
and to for that was a big that was that was a really interesting way to teach also, and to explain how that could stay with you, being a refugee and sneaking into a country or getting somewhere because you have to make it better, then wanting to be that citizen serving your country just like Desi Arnaz did,
Hmm.
and then literally becoming the pinnacle of the American dream. And that is exactly what Desi Arnaz did. And along with his lovely wife Lucy, when they said,
Hmm.
"I'm sorry, you two, no one's ever going to believe a brown man and a white woman have this wonderful love affair," and it's like, but we do.
They said, "Hold my
So what do you
beer."
think about that? Yeah. And they to take their show on the road, was
Yeah.
just so groundbreaking and so inspirational. And then when Lucy and when they amicably split, they kept their relationship was just beautiful. They had a beautiful
Hmm.
relationship until Desi died, and Lucy had a was working on her own, and was
Hmm.
then had to deal with men telling her art that I'm sorry, you're not in the light, right? And she was saying, no, I'm in the right spot. You've got it. There's a shadow overhead that you've got to fix. That's not my, I know when
Hmm.
there's a shadow, if I'm walking here and we're blocking a scene, we've got to fix that. And we were so lucky to find archive of her getting annoyed at at a director, right? Because he literally was telling her, "You don't know what you're talking about," and boy, did she
Whoa.
calmly tell him, "Excuse me, yes, I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about," you know.
Well, and
And
that
so that was
same
good.
kind of spirit's in her daughter. I mean, I had the privilege of
Ah, I love
communicating and
Lucy.
not only interviewing, but communicating with her on several occasions, and equally as determined, equally as skilled, very and and
And what a better
not
director
only
than to
in
have Amy Poehler too.
oh
Talk
yeah,
about somebody
yeah.
who's skilled and yeah, yeah, it was great. So, and Lucy Arnaz and Amy, yeah, they're two powerful, talented, wonderful women. Yeah,
They are.
yeah,
They very, truly are. One thing
people.
I
Yeah,
one thing I was struck by is that you have a pretty good relationship. It appears like working with probably one of the poster children of baby boomers, and that's Ron Howard. I mean, good Lord. That's
a
somebody I
legend,
would love
right?
to talk to. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but how does, I mean, here you are dealing with a poster child of baby boomers, doing some documentaries on things that interest baby boomers. How does that dynamic all work out between you two?
I can't take the credit for reeling Ron in. I give that to my business partner, Nigel Sinclair, and also my other business partners. I've got two others additional, Nigel Sinclair, Nicholas Farrell, and Cassidy Hartman. The Beatles 8 days a week was definitely Nigel's baby. So, we all have our own babies that were shepherd
Mm-hmm.
in the White Horse umbrella, under the White Horse umbrella. And Cassidy had written a outline about what the film what we thought after discussions, but she wrote it. She's an incredible beautiful writer, and had I couldn't have done what she did, let's put it that way, and had put this down in I guess it was like probably 3 pages maybe. And Ron called up Nigel and said, "I want to see this film. Who wrote this?" And so he said, "Well," and he it was that was such a great process. Nigel was coming off of a film called Rush that Ron had done about a narrative feature film about F1 drivers, and it was really quite good. Um, and he said, "What do you think of the Beatles?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What do I think of the Beatles? I love the Beatles."
Gosh. Wow.
So yeah, that was truly amazing. I mean, working with Ron, and it was like a master class. I mean, that's how I feel about working with these directors, though. They are
Yeah.
Frank Marshall is an amazing editor. He's a director, yes, but he's magic in the edit. He's magic in that. We have magical editors. I shouldn't just say that, but he's just a very faceted human being, as is Ron. They're Renaissance people, most of these directors. So they could look at different aspects of one's life through a different lens, and that's pretty cool. So we always say if we could direct them ourselves, maybe we would, but it wouldn't be the same because these are great storytellers. Ron Howard's a brilliant storyteller, and as Frank Marshall, as is Martin Scorsese, and we're working with Robert Zemeckis. These are brilliant filmmakers and storytellers. Amy Poehler is a brilliant storyteller and writer. So there's you do learn just about a different process because you're working with different human beings. You
Right.
just do, and that is a gift that you get to have a front row seat for. And you also need to be really prepared and know your stuff because they're
Yeah.
going to ask you or have it. Let me look that up for you, sir. You don't want to give a wrong answer. If you don't know
That's
something,
right.
I got to look it up or I don't remember. But that's okay. Just give me a minute. Um, and, uh, and, and so working with these legendary, just filmmakers has been, wow. I mean, it's lucky. It feels really, we're really blessed. And plus that they're also great collaborators. So they're not
Hmm.
dictatorial. That's really lovely too. And it's
That's
nice to
probably
experience that.
that's probably not all that common in Hollywood, I would imagine, or is it? I mean, is it
I don't know.
becoming?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked with anybody who's not, sure, everybody has like that. If you don't argue something, then you don't get the best out of someone, I think. I think you should have not like butt heads. I don't mean like, things like
Right.
that, but I mean a healthy conversation about, well,
Hashing it
what
all out to get it.
hashing it
Yeah.
all out. Exactly. Not really quite arguing, it's more like hashing it out. Yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah, that I think it's very healthy to do that because
I do too.
you're hearing both sides.
Yep. Well, I know I have. I mean, I've heard terms all my life, and until I started doing this stuff, especially getting on video, I used to record the phone conversations, then manually transcribe it, and then craft an article. Then COVID
Mm.
kind of drug me kicking and screaming to doing Zoom, right? But and I
It's
had a
nice
guy
though.
working with me. Pardon me.
It's nice doing Zoom because we have a rapport. I could see you. I'm
Exactly.
having a real conversation with you. It's more personal. I like it.
I do too. I do too. And sometimes a facial expression will give you more than the word being said. And I love that.
Amen.
But
Hmm.
the appreciation I now have, I had a gentleman working with me for the first 2 years, helping me out until I could get somewhat of my land legs on this stuff. But then when he left, I had to start doing my own editing, and that was like, oh my gosh. I mean, my sweet spot is tracking people down and interviewing them, and I'd love nothing more than just throw it over the wall and let people that are swift at this stuff to make me look better. But they're that whole process of, and I'm very low tech compared to what you guys do. I mean, I'm iMovie and Canva, right? So I just make it simple. But I have such a deeper appreciation of what all goes into what you guys do. I now watch, man. I'm sure you're even more so this way when you're watching somebody else's work. It's like,
Hmm.
wow, how did they do that? And I'm thinking in my mind, my limited scope of knowledge on it, I could only imagine what the tools were available and all of that. So that just that stuff blows my mind. So my hat's off to all of you guys that do that for a
Well,
living and
I
have
can't
all
take
the
any
cool
credit in
stuff.
editing any. Oh, well, thank you. I can't take any credit for editing anything. We just come up with an idea and something. And then, Robert Martinez edited about several of our films, and he's a brilliant, wonderful, talented editor, as is Scott Hansen, who edited Billy Preston. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll give him a plug because it's very entertaining. It's on HBO. Oh gosh, oh my gosh, I don't know what it's called. It's about bowling. It's about a bowling league. It is so good. Bowling on HBO. I'm going to actually just Google it now so I remember
Okay.
what it's called. Born to Bowl. It's called Born to Bowl.
Ah,
And
okay.
there's only 4 episodes out now or 3 episodes out now, but it's very engaging. It's really fun. It's like, uh, um, oh, that football one, Rats. I can't remember what that one's called either. It's excellent. It's just so good. It's so much fun. I was
One
just trying to remember what the football one was. Hard Knocks. That's it. I just remembered
oh
it.
yeah, Hard Knocks.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember Hard
Yeah.
Knocks. So this is like Hard Knocks, but Hard Knocks on bowling, and it's just very entertaining.
Very cool.
And
I
Scott
it
edited
kind
it. That's why I brought it.
of an inside baseball type of question that I want to ask, and I want to be respectful of your time. I know we've been at it about an hour, close to it, but something I'd like to learn from you is when you're dealing with people, your subjects for the films,
Mhm.
and I'm sure we both could share war stories. I don't want to call them horror stories. My
I know what you
favorite
mean.
is Brian Wilson. My 2 minute and 20-second long interview with Brian. I mean, I was like, I thought I failed, but with your approach, and I feel pretty good about how I approach people. I'm approaching 700 interviews now, but I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface, and I feel like there's so much more I can learn and know to be better at what I do. What are some of the things you experience in getting people to participate in a project? Because I know sometimes, I mean, you mentioned there's a lot of people wanted to talk with you on the Fleetwood Mac thing. I can imagine though sometimes it's difficult to get them, some people to talk, depending on subject matter and that kind of thing. What are some of your insights on that?
I think it depends on the artist. A lot of times, what we learned in Fleetwood Mac is they have very good friends. Their relationships run very deep, and sometimes the exploratory interview was a little more deeper and more interesting than the interview that we had on camera. And because they were concerned about, the politically incorrect things today. So there's a lot of things that we did when we were younger that were acceptable, for when we were teenagers. That is not that we would never in a million years dream of our 13-year-old going to a concert. What are you doing? You're
Right?
by yourself. How are you getting there?
No.
You're hitchhiking, or what the hell? So, but this was a completely different time.
Hmm.
So, and they and if somebody was more comfortable talking about, I can say this because if they were uncomfortable talking about drugs or something that they might have done or experienced, they didn't want to say that on camera. And
Hmm.
I thought that was really elegant and beautiful, and that's okay.
Hmm.
We'll get it somewhere else, or we'll get it from the artists themselves. And I think that that is a beautiful relationship that you have, and that's all right. You know,
Hmm.
with To get things out of people that might be uncomfortable. I think a lot of artists in general, taking about the great Brian Wilson, they just don't like being interviewed. And it's
Yep.
not about taking it personally.
No,
You
not
get
at all.
something out of them. You definitely do. And sometimes they give you, like you said, you get 10 minutes with somebody and that's all you get. But it's a good 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as long as you go for right away, this is the question that I need to ask, and
Be
whoever is
respectful of their
surrounding
time.
them, be respectful of their time, give them the questions if you can, or talking points ahead of time, because it's
Hmm.
no one can remember something that happened 30 years ago. I mean,
Correct.
there's no way.
Yeah.
You can't,
Yeah.
if you could say this is a timeline, did I get something incorrect? We're going to be covering the time that you made this album to that album, or that's kind of what you give them a parameter like that. I'm not saying to ask, we don't give them the exact same question, because you don't want things rehearsed, of course. The
Right.
documentary, for goodness sakes.
Right.
But you're at least allowing people to
Refresh
jog
their
their
memory.
memory.
Yeah.
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 Well, I didn't. I should have, and I take full responsibility for my deal with Brian. I, if I'd done a little more research or a little bit different research in a different direction, I would have known what I would have been coming up against. And I
Mm.
mean, I was, I hung up and I felt so dejected, and I felt like such a failure. And my cousin that was working with me at the time, he calls me up. He goes, "So how'd it go?" And I said, "Man, it was terrible. I blew it." And I told him what all happened. He goes, "But dude, you talked to Brian freaking Wilson." Well, since you put it that way, But and then after I started digging into it, I just felt so sorry for him, and such compassion
Was
for
this a
where
later,
he.
was this later in life
Yeah, this is
when you were?
about 9 years ago, I think it was.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I get what you mean. You don't
Yeah,
even need to explain it. I understand.
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
you do
before
feel
the
bad for him.
conservatorship and all that, but
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it was, there was definitely things wrong there and all that, and I saw him in concert about a month after that, and I mean, quite frankly, I think people should have taken better care of him. He shouldn't have been doing some of the stuff he was doing at that stage in life, in my humble opinion, from what I could observe. But but I promise I'd keep it at an hour, and I'm running a little late. But here,
You could run a few more minutes late. You're good.
okay?
Yeah.
So you've got Fleetwood Mac coming up, and I want to
Yeah.
talk to you about that when that gets closer to time to drop. And if you want to bring in others to be part of that too, you know me, I'm going to be game for any of that. What else are you working on that we might can look forward to?
Well, that's in the can. I don't know what else has been announced, so I'm going to stick with what I know was announced. So we know that Fleetwood Mac's announced, and we're very excited about that. And I will absolutely will you will make sure that you are looped in and can see us,
Okay.
that when it's ready. And it's going up on Apple, so it'll probably have a very limited theatrical release,
Yeah.
or if any. And it's just it's a one piece film. It's harder to make one piece than it is to break it up into two parts.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a bit easier because then you can go a little bit deeper. But when you
Right.
keep something to one part, it is very difficult. So we've got this Billy Preston documentary that still does not have a home, so we're in the process of looking for a streamer. We have Lilith Fair that is out, and that was on Disney Plus and Hulu, and it's up for, knocking wood, proverbial wood on my head. It's up for the awards consideration now. So Lilith Fair, Building on a Mystery, directed by Ali Pankew, and that was my partner Cassidy Hartman's baby. Well, she shepherded that one in. So, it's wonderful. I love this film. It is so good, and it was that was such a time in music and women's growth within music, and the challenge it was in the music industry's deep gender bias, that story just had to be told, and
Hmm.
it's very good. And Yeah, so we've got these wonderful. I know I can't. I that and other films are coming out too. So and once
When's the
they're
Fleetwood Mac
out there,
coming
I'll
out?
let probably at the end of this year or first part of 27, probably the end of this year, and probably end of this year on Apple will have
So let me
should
ask
be.
you this: if this thing comes together, like I'm told it will, with Rick Vito and Mick Fleetwood, would it
Wait,
be
Rick Vito, or you mean Lindsey Buckingham?
no with Rick Vito? I'm going to
Oh,
be talking
okay.
with Rick. That interview is already posted, but we're going to
Oh,
do a
okay.
three-way conversation about blues and especially Fleetwood
Okay.
Mac doing blues in the beginning.
Hmm.
But if Mick is on there, would it be out of place to bring up your documentary that's
Oh,
coming
not at
in?
all.
And okay,
Yeah,
good.
it wouldn't be
I
out of
don't
place at
want
all
to.
because Lindsay's spoken about it on just this week. He spoke about it, and yeah, so we're good. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
good,
Everybody,
good deal.
we've interviewed everybody. We got Christine's approval to do this, but right before she passed, we've got
Hmm.
a wonderful interview with her before she had passed. We're very blessed with that, and John John had these. He was a for fun. He gave a lot of the crew cameras, and he had a
Oh,
camera,
I bet
film
that was
camera.
interesting.
I know. So he had these great photos of candid shots that are just in
Hmm.
our film. No one has ever seen,
Really,
and they're
that's amazing.
beautiful, beautiful shots of them, just being, either, waiting to record, or of course, he was married to Christine Perfect McVie. And as he says, she was Christine Perfect before she met me. She was perfect before she met me. I love that, the way he says it.
That's
It's
cool.
so
Well, I,
sweet.
for
It's
one, am
so sweet.
slowly going through and I'm buying DVDs of this, all of these here, as you know, a little bit at a time. I can't break my bank doing that, but I love this kind of stuff. You ought to see my DVD collection. But
Oh,
I do that because I love this kind of stuff that you do, and that's when you mentioned it during the Billy Preston chat. I mean, you might remember I got a little animated there, and it's like, oh, I got to talk to you more. And I mean, we could talk an hour for each one of these and still not do it justice. But just to kind of get into your realm of work and all that, I think it's important for people to know, and hopefully creates interest for them to pull up these. And I know a lot of this is up for streaming. Some of it you got to rent, that kind of thing, or you can buy the DVDs. And I'm hoping it drives some more views and sales for you
Thank
guys
you.
as it happens.
Thank you.
Is the Billy Preston thing ever going to come out on DVD?
Well, we hope so, and we hope, yeah, but for streamer for sure. I know that there's going to be accompanying album on Dark Horse Records, so
All
that'll be
right.
great. We have record for it, yeah. So that'll be beautiful, and yeah, I hope so. I hope it comes out on DVD. I love the tech feeling of something, like it's tactile. You have something, it's
Yeah.
there. You've got it on display,
Physical you can
like you've
hold on
got
to. Yeah.
physical. Yeah, that's why I had. Album collection, over 3,000 albums. I lost my home in the
Whoa.
fires in LA, so I
Oh.
had. It's hard. I know. So and yeah, the vinyl collection was, oh my goodness, yeah, it was a hard one to lose. I mean, the whole losing my house and all my belongings
Right.
and family heirlooms, that was really hard too,
Yeah.
of course. But we were lucky. We got out with our pets, and my kids they're adults, and they were fine, and they were
Hmm.
like they were amazing. Yeah, raised some really good kids. They've been that's wonderful to us, me and my husband. So, but yes, I love the tactile, physical product. I get what you mean. I had
Yep.
a collection of DVDs, and the vinyl was my nirvana. No pun
But you
intended, but it was my nirvana.
you can't see because this is a virtual backdrop, but I've got like four bookcases full of books of just this whole genre, and
Well, yeah,
I
that's what
have
I
a
was
I have
like.
a bookcase of signed books that I collect, and
Wow, mm,
I have a lot of fun with that. And then wrapped
great.
around my ceiling line here are autographed albums. So
Oh, that's so
I'm
cool.
hopeless. I'm totally
That's
hopeless.
so cool. That's so cool. Yeah.
But
I got my first record signed by Stevie and Lindsay, because that's it's a
whoa,
fire. So yeah, Stevie and Lindsay, and wonderful Adria Petty gave me some records of Tom's. That was just
that's
so
neat.
sweet to receive that in the mail. It was like just lovely. It still makes me cry thinking about it because it was really, really beautiful, very thoughtful.
That is cool. Very cool. Well, Jeannie, I look forward to talking to you a whole lot more in the future. And if
Thank
there's
you.
ever anything I can do to help, whether it's behind the scenes or doing one of these to promote something you guys are doing, or if you have other people in your sphere that want help in getting the word out, I can do my little part here to try to help do that. And I would love to do it and be honored to do it. But I look forward to further conversations and lots more fun stuff like this to discuss. So,
Yes, and we'll look for what's coming up next because there is some really great boomer that stories that are just coming up next that are amazing.
I can't
So
wait.
you'll
So
enjoy.
you're teasing me, but I love it. So
You'll enjoy.
we'll stay in touch on that and make sure I'm
All
in the
right,
loop on all that so we can talk.
I
Okay.
will. All right,
All
thank
right.
you,
All right. Thank
Boomerocity.
you. Have a
Love
good
it.
night.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.
This has been another fun-filled episode of Boomerocity with your host and producer, Randy Patterson. The theme song is Roll the Dice and is recorded and used by permission from Quentin Hope. Quentin is spelled Quinten, and Hope is Hope. And you can find out more about Quentin at quentinhope.com. Post-production is done by Cardinal Sins Productions. The Boomerocity name, logo, and content is copyright protected. Segments may only be used with written permission by Boomerocity and/or its assignees. Inquiries should be directed to input@boomerocity.com. Copyright 2025.